is really close to my heart, which is becoming a mother, identity formation among adolescent mothers in rural Pakistan. Okay, so just to build a little bit background about it, adolescent motherhood is a global concern. And every year, more than 21 million adolescent girls in low and middle income countries become pregnant. And about 12 million of those pregnancies result in live births. So in Pakistan, the adolescent birth rate is basically 42 per thousand girls who are aged between 15 to 19. And it's even higher in the rural areas like Matiari. Matiari is one of the district or rural area where this study was conducted. So beyond the statistics, I think there are real young lives, which is shaped by systemic inequalities and cultural expectations. So early motherhood in these settings affect their education, autonomy, mental health, and they can trap families in intergenerational cycles of poverty. So basically, this issue is not just about health, it's about justice, it's about empowerment, and it's about equity. In Pakistan specifically, nearly 1 in 5 girls marry before the age of 18. And there is a limited access to education, there is limited access to reproductive health information and decision-making power, which further compounds the risk associated with early motherhood. So while much of the existing literature focuses on health outcomes, far less attention has been paid on how adolescent motherhood reshapes identity, how these young girls make sense of who they are becoming, what they have lost, and what they still hope for. And this gap is especially striking, giving evidence that adolescent mothers are 3 times more likely to experience mental health challenges than adult mothers, yet their voices are being not heard, and their experiences have largely been absent from research and policy discussions. So the aim of this study was to explore the experiences of adolescent mothers in rural Pakistan, with a particular focus on how they navigate motherhood, their agency and future aspirations within their own cultural and familial contexts. So for this research, I used a qualitative focused ethnography approach, which allowed me to explore each participant's unique emotional journey. And I interviewed 25 adolescent mothers between the ages of 15 and 19, and all of them were from rural Matiari. Data was collected through in-depth interviews. I did participant observations, and I also collected some of the artifacts. So the data were analyzed inductively using thematic analysis approach, and it was supported by NVivo. So the findings reflect interconnected identity processes rather than isolated experiences. And I'll walk you through 5 key areas. That is how identity is transformed through motherhood, how this identity was negotiated under constraint, how power and control shaped maternal experiences, and how disrupted dreams were reimagined, and finally, the resilience and hope. So the first theme that emerged was how early motherhood transformed the identity of these girls. So many of these girls talked about a clear loss of their girlhood, a sense that their childhood has ended the moment they became married or become mother. So participants described this as a sudden shift from their play, from school, and from freedom to the responsibilities, discipline, and silence. So for example, one of the participants shared that I was still a child myself, but suddenly everyone expected me to behave like a grown woman. And motherhood became their new identity, which was often replaced by previous identities such as student, daughters, or friend. But it was not just about losing some things. These girls were also redefining their self-worth in different ways and in a new ways. For many, value became tied to the sacrifice. endurance, and how well they could care for others. While many struggled with self-doubt and questioned whether they were doing the right job, they were doing the good job, some began to see strength in what they were doing. For example, raising their child and finding pride in survival, caregiving, and emotional resilience, even when the external validation was absent, basically. So, for example, one of the young mother reflected, even when I was tired and scared, I felt strong because my child depended on me. So this transformation was also embodied. The identity change was felt physically, not just emotionally. And many of these girls expressed anxiety over how they looked, and they described their young faces already marked by fatigue. So this connection between their body, their beauty, and fatigue came up often. Just one of the quote I remember was one of the women shared that people say I look older now, but it's not age, it's tiredness. So while identity was shifting, the emotional struggles were also very deep. A major part of their hardship was unseen labor. Many of these girls shared how their day just began and did not end until night. As one of the participants described, from morning till night, I'm just working, but no one sees it. So, because this labor happened inside the house, it was often invisible, even to those around them. So, while some girls received emotional support from their mothers or from their friends, from their families, many of them talked about that they were left alone with their responsibilities. And of course, these years of stress affected their mental health. So girls often reported, or they reported feeling confused, ashamed, and deeply afraid and fearful, like fear of failing their child, fear of medical complications, or fear of not being taken seriously. So as one of the participants put in a way that I was scared all the time, but I didn't know who I could tell. So as these girls navigated motherhood, they were also navigating power structures they had no control over. So most of them lived in environments where decision-making hierarchies were firmly in place. So age, gender, and marital status shaped those voices, whose voices carried weight in their household. So even as mothers, they often had no say in decisions about their own children. So some of them shared that even their basic parental choices was overridden by elders. So as like one of the young mother, she explained, my mother-in-law decides everything, even what my baby should eat. And these power structures were reinforced by cultural expectations and judgments. So girls were expected to be obedient, they were expected to be silent and grateful. And when these girls didn't fit in this mold, they were being judged by their family, by their neighbors, and even healthcare providers. But again, there were some flickers of resistance. So resistance was often subtle, it was negotiated, and it was deeply relational. So some girls began to negotiate. For example, they were able to decide what school their child would attend or just setting the boundaries. So one of the example is one of the participant asserted that I may be young, but I know what is right for my child. Apart from that, early motherhood disrupted many personal aspirations. Participants spoke about their dreams of education, their careers, and independence that ended prematurely. As one of the participants shared, that I wanted to wear a uniform and carry books, but my life changed too soon. So education in particularly emerged as a lost identity. It was not just a missed opportunity, but a part of who they once imagined themselves to be. And yet, motherhood also prompted a reimagination of future. And what I found incredibly powerful was how these girls started creating new goals through motherhood. So loss did not always translate into hopelessness. And so they began dreaming not for themselves, but for their children about their future and their education. And these were not just hopes, they were active intentions, basically. So many describe saving money, planning for schooling, and imagining different futures for their children. So despite all they had lost, they were planting seeds for the better future, not for themselves, but for the next generation. And that brings me to the final part, which is the one that is threaded through the others, which is resilience and hope. So, in the face of poverty, exhaustion, social pressure, and emotional isolation, these young mothers found ways to keep going. Their resilience in adversity showed up in both big and small ways. Some shared how a hug from their child gave them strength to get through the day, and other just said that prayer helped them a lot. So their coping mechanisms were deeply personal. So for some, it was just listening to the music, while for others, it was doing household chores. And some of them found strength in conversations with other young mothers. And these girls did not just reflect, they had a clear recommendations for change, and they asked for women's center in their villages for support groups where they could share without being judged. And they wanted health workers who could explain things clearly and treat them with respect. So above all, they wanted to be heard, basically. So, like looking at all these themes and findings, we conclude that adolescent motherhood in rural Pakistan, basically, it reflects both social vulnerability and dynamic identity reconstruction. So these young mothers were not just experiencing loss, they were actively negotiating their identity, and they were exercising agency within the constraint, and they were reimagining their futures. So interventions must move beyond the physical health to address the psychosocial and mental health, like mental health interventions. There should be some educational reintegration and culturally grounded empowerment. So supporting adolescent mothers means recognizing both the challenges they face and the strength they demonstrate, basically. So the findings highlight the need for adolescent-friendly maternal health policies, their peer support groups within the rural communities, the culturally sensitive reproductive healthcare education, and the integration of young mothers into existing maternal health services, not just physically, but emotionally and respectfully. These are the references. And thank you all of you for listening to my presentation. And I would like to acknowledge the participants or adolescent mothers who shared their stories with me, as well as my supervisory committee and the funding support from University of Alberta and WICRI, Delta Kappa Gamma, the Isaac Killam Memorial Scholarship, IDRA, and Davert Mental Health. Thank you so much.